The second verse of Eicha reads, Machos Tivkeh b'layla. The city of Jerusalem weeps bitterly at night. The Yalkut Shimoni questions this double formulation. Why did it say Machos Tivkeh? Why do we need both words? Medrash comments as follows. Machos Tivkeh, she cries bitterly. Bocha, she cries. Umevaka, and she causes others to cry. Who does she cause to cry? HaKadosh Baruch Hu ima. She causes God to cry with her. Shenamar, and the Medrash brings a pasuk in Yeshayahu to hammer home this point. Medrash continues, Bocha, Jerusalem cries, Muvaka Malachei Asharis ima, and she causes the heavenly hosts, the angels, to cry with her. Continuing, Bocha, she cries, Muvaka Shemayim v'Yareach, Shemesh v'Yareach, and she causes the sun and the moon to cry with her. Shenamar, and again we have a pasuk. Bocha, the Medrash continues, she cries, Jerusalem cries, Muvaka Kochavim Muzalos, and she causes the stars and the Zodiac to cry with her. And so on and so forth. Such that by the end of the Medrash, Jerusalem's cry has sparked crying amongst the heavenly host, God, his angels, and the natural world, the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, and the sky. The fifth Kinnah expands on this Medrash. The Kinnah, Ad Ana Bechia B'Sion U'Mispei B'Yerushalayim, goes through the sun, the moon, and the Zodiac, talking how each one mourns over the destruction of the temple and the tragedies that befall Bnei Israel. The Kinnah pays special attention to the Zodiac, calling out each one by name and speaking of how each mourns in their own unique way. Perhaps ironically, it was the Babylonians who divided the sky into 12 equal parts of 30 degrees each, and, as it were, canonized the constellations in each part. The importance of the zodiac, astronomically and also astrologically, cannot be overemphasized. The sun and the moon, in their yearly cycle throughout the sky, pass through these 12 constellations. It should not be surprising, therefore, that the zodiac was looked at, can be looked at, as underpinning the natural order. And while Judaism rejects mostly the astrology attached to the zodiac, its importance is demonstrated by parallels drawn between the 12 constellations of the zodiac and the 12 tribes, and of course that the 12 constellations of the zodiac, each representing one Hebrew month. The portrayal in the Kinnah of the zodiac, each member of the zodiac, in mourning over the destruction of the Mikdash and the tragedies that befell the Jewish people, is important on a number of different levels. Number one, as we saw in Kinnah Gimel, it demonstrates the intertwining of the natural and the spiritual world. Such a massive disturbance, spiritual disturbance, such as the destruction of the Mikdash, cannot help but be felt in the natural world. The darkening of the celestial bodies represents the mourning of these creations of God to the spiritual loss that took place during that destruction. Number two, the Kinnah demonstrates that the zodiac too, and therefore the nature as a whole, bows before God. They cry over the downfall of Jerusalem. They mourn over the tragedies that befall God's people. They are not independent. They don't have their own power. They bow before the one God. Number three, the Kinnah demonstrates the interconnection between Bnei Israel and the zodiac itself. And this is appropriate. After all, it is the Jewish people, via Kiddush HaChodesh, who sanctify the months, who decide when the months should start and they should end. Finally, number four, the zodiac represents time, suggesting that mourning over the temple and the tragedies that befell Bnei Israel at that time should not be limited only to the month of Av. It is not only its representative, Leo the lion, the Aryeh, who cries in the Kinnah. Rather, each one of the zodiac, each constellation has its turn, suggesting that mourning over the temple, mourning over tragedies that befall Bnei Israel, should not be limited to any one time period, but is something that must be thought about during the entire year. However, while the zodiac can mourn, it cannot provide comfort. We see a change by the end of the Kinnah in the approach of the Mikonen, an approach of the author. The end of the Kinnah says, Tirachem Tzion Kasher Amarta. You, God, not the Zodiac, you, God, should have mercy on Zion, as you stated. Neha Kasher Diparta, and you should reestablish it, as you said. Prayer is underscored by final hope. We quote a pasuk that says that God will, in fact, rebuild Jerusalem, demonstrating our reliance on Him, even though us and the natural world are currently all in mourning.